I want to emphasize it is a change of heart produced by God's Spirit. And a person with a changed heart seeks praise from God. Look at your neighbor and say, neighbor, you can't stay the same when you encounter God. Look at your other neighbor and say, neighbor, there's no possible way you can stay the same when you encounter God. Touch the person in front of you and say, neighbor, you got to change when God puts his hands on you. I want to preach from the thought, I'm glad he changed me. I'm glad he changed me. See, right there, I shouldn't have even had to preach. Because when you think about where you used to be and how God changed your heart and changed your mind, that's enough to give God a little bit of praise. Is there anybody in here glad that he changed? Some young people have changed, and this generation of kids won't obey authority, don't respect their elders, and in some instances are not pleasant to be around. Oh yes, if you were to ask anybody who grew up in the 70s and the 80s, they will tell you that it sure isn't like it used to be. Over the years, innovative changes have made life more simpler. Computers quickly took the place of the traditional typewriter. Email has closed the doors of many post offices. Microwaves have cut preparation time down for feeding our families from hours to minutes. Facebook and the World Wide Web has made finding old friends, sharing daily thoughts, and experiencing other cultures just as easy as the click of the mouse. Years ago, the way we found information and researched historical truths was doing research in the encyclopedia or the dictionary. In 2012, dictionaries are rarely found and encyclopedias are obsolete because now we have the World Wide Web and something called Google that will tell you anything you want to know. Back in the day, a perm and a hot comb was the only way sisters could pass from one state of being, which included that kitchen on the back of that neck, to the next state of being, which that hot comb added length and curls if twisted and held in the curl position long enough. Today, a sister can cook it, perm it, color it, and go from looking like Grace Jones to looking like Beyonce all in one day. Today, as a sister can go from having 3 inches of hair to having hair going down her back 8 hours after leaving the register. When mutation or a sudden change occurs, such as when Jesus was transfigured, metamorphosed, and became radiant before Peter, James, and John. The Synoptic Gospels in 2 Peter describe this moment when human nature meets God on the mountain. A supernatural change took place that defined and separated that which was human and that which was God. And if the truth be told, I believe I have 1 or 2 Christians in here that can declare that change has also occurred in your life. You remember there was a time when you couldn't wake up without needing a drink and couldn't go to bed without getting high. You remember there was a time when you would cuss somebody out first and ask questions later. You remember there was a time when clubbing was the thought of the weekend, but now you can't wait for the weekend so you can get to the house of the Lord. Oh, you ought to grab your neighbor and say, neighbor, who you see right now isn't who I have always been. I wish I had just one person in here who will set the record straight and tell somebody that since you found Jesus, a wonderful change has taken over your life. Is there anybody in here who will declare that since Jesus Christ saved your soul, you don't think like you used to think? He changed